Sir, we are starting the session. Sir. We'll do a. Sir, am I audible? Sir? Sir, am I audible? Sir, I think you're on mute.
Okay. Yeah. Am I?
Yes, sir. You are audible,
Okay,
sir.
okay.
Participants, can you just raise your hands and lower your hands so that we can check whether the sound is audible? If we are audible, please raise your hands and you can lower them. Yeah, okay. Thank you, participants. You can lower your hands now. Sir, so I'll give a quick introduction about CIIC and followed by your introduction, and then we'll
Please.
move on to the session.
Yeah, sure.
So, good evening, everybody. Thank you and welcome to all for yet another webinar as part of the CIIC webinar series. So, for participants who are new to the CIIC network, CIIC stands for Crescent Innovation and Incubation Council. We are an incubation and innovation center which has an expertise in life sciences. We are BIRAC funded. We are funded by the government of India, by the biotech department. To name a few highlights, as of now, 36 startups are currently incubated at CIIC. We also are into supporting student-based startups. So we have 21 student startup ideas, which are completely built out of the Crescent campus. So we're supporting a lot of students with upcoming ideas. Till date, about rupees 70 lakhs has been raised through government grants for our startups. So that is one of the key features which we hold. Also, 40 crores has been raised through private equity and external investors by our startups. So we're about almost a year and a half in age, but still quite a few things have happened. So any of the participants who are looking to build their own company, they can reach out to CIIC. And another initiative from CIIC is this webinar. And today with us, we have Dr. Kabali Subramanian. And he's going to share his view on Blue Ocean strategy for startups to swim across this COVID-19. So if you were attending the series, you would be aware that most of our sessions are surrounding the COVID scenario, because it's a very new and it's unplanned. So nobody knows how COVID will pan out. So we have Dr. Kabali, who's an academician, researcher, corporate trainer, and a consultant in business strategy, innovation, and digital transformation. He's trained over 1,000 entrepreneurs, business leaders, and senior executives in strategy, innovation, and digital transformation across the world. He's leading a research team in digital transformation of higher education, funded by the Apex Research Funding Agency, the Research Council in Oman. He has a very strong presence in the Gulf region through corporates, and he is again training them in strategy innovation. He's attended development programs at IIMK, IIMB, and various other top universities across the globe. So over to Dr. Kabali for the session. Thank you.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Mr. Akshay. Thank you very much. So kind of you. So first I'll share the presentation screen. Mr. Akshay, kindly check whether it's visible.
Not yet, sir.
Is it?
So screen share button, the bottom one.
1 minute.
Another quick request to the participants. So I can see most of you are sharing the message to all panelists. While sending the message, you can put it to all panelists and attendees so that everybody can see your message. I can see quite a few people are introducing themselves. So you do not want everybody to miss. So you can send your messages to all panelists and attendees. Sir, we're able to see the screen. Participants, can we have a show of hands if you're able to see the screen? Yeah, thank you so much. You can lower your hands now. Okay, Doctor, we can proceed.
Thank you, Akshay. It's indeed my pleasure and privilege and a great honor to be a part of CIIC's initiative, COVID and post-COVID initiatives. I really personally thank my good friend, Mr. Parvez, for giving me this great opportunity to meet people across India, and some of them from other parts of the world also are joining. So it is indeed my pleasure. And I also thank BioNest, BIRAC, and Innovation Council for supporting this initiative. Today, I'm going to share with you some of my thoughts, my research work, and my experience working with entrepreneurs, startup founders across the world. So today, my topic is on Blue Ocean strategy for startups to swim across the COVID-19. We all know the present situation is defined by COVID-19. So therefore, all our discussions across the world is happening around this theme. So let me first let's start with a positive note. It's sure one more time it is reinforced post-COVID. India is going to be an economic superpower. There is no doubt about it. Just to put you in perspective, I always say that the first 1,500 years of common era was powered by Asia. The economic growth was powered by Asia, particularly India and China were leading. And then in the 19th century, the economic fulcrum or economic action area moved to Europe because of industrialization. And then in 20th century, it went on to North America. Now, the 21st century, even pre-COVID, every economic pundits and economic experts were suggesting that it will come back to Asia. The real action is going to happen in Asia. And post-COVID, it is reinforcing. And also one more thing happening in Asia, two countries are supposed to lead this, this growth. One is China and the second one is India. So both of them are leading. Of course, we all know that China economically is ahead of India. But now, post-COVID, the scenario may change. So that is what everyone is waiting with, what do you call, cross fingers that how this scenario is going to pan out. Because already there are a lot of news that countries like Korea, Japan, North America, particularly US, they're all showing some signs of moving into India away from China. So this is the general scenario. Therefore, very positive note is India is going to be an economic superpower. There is no doubt. Now the question is whether India is ready to take such great opportunities which are on our way. So that is the important question. That is what we are going to discuss today. And particularly, I always look at startups and entrepreneurs as economic freedom fighters, that they are going to be in the forefront of the economic growth of our country, and they are going to be in the forefront of economic growth of this world in this century. For the next 50 to 100 years belongs to Asia, particularly the focus is going to be more on India. So with that note, let's, of course, there is another positive thing happening, that COVID-19, there are a lot of news that, the cure is in pipeline, be it vaccine or be it, medicine. So it is in the pipeline. So that is another positive. So when I looked at the recent news, that very interestingly, Indian engineer develops rapidly producible COVID-19 ventilators. So look at that, how entrepreneurs are, making use of every opportunity to support the country, to support the economic development, to support the social development. So that is what entrepreneurship and startups are all about. When I just looked at the news across India, there are a lot of good things happening. There are a lot of new initiatives, be it sanitization chamber, be it robots supporting healthcare, be it face masks and protective gears, be it ventilators, be it drones supporting all required support to tackle this COVID-19 situation. So all of them are initiatives, and energy comes from entrepreneurs and startups. So it's a good sign. A lot of innovation happening. So we always say necessity is the mother of invention. When we are cornered, entrepreneurs will come out very successfully. Even when they are resource crunched, even sometimes resource crunch is a boon for entrepreneurs because they think differently, they think tangentially to come out with some innovative and novel solutions. So that is what today our discussion is going to be. So one thing is very clear, loud and clear, that India in particular, world in general, is moving into innovation economy. When you look at the economic history of the world, it all started with agrarian economy, the agriculture economy, and then moved on to industrial economy. Then we moved into innovation economy. Today we are entering into an era of innovation economy. So the next 50 to 100 years are going to be defined by innovation, innovation, innovation. So therefore, all our entrepreneurs and startups, I make a call here. You need to develop your innovation capabilities. That is the only thing which can ensure you success. That is the only insurance against any situation, be it COVID or any other future situation, which is going to, which the world is going to face. So the one capability, if you ask me, which every entrepreneur and their team should focus on is develop the capability to innovate. That is going to define the next 50 to 100 years. Okay, how the post-COVID world is going to look like? It's already there. We all know. We are aware of VUCA world. Not only post-COVID, the pre-COVID, we were talking about VUCA world. So what is VUCA world is all about? VUCA world is about volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So I need not elaborate more. You might have heard this many, many times in many, many presentations. The world was volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguity. So this is the environment in which our entrepreneurs and startup founders are going to be in. So, and what happens is, what is interesting thing is post-COVID, this is going to be much more volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And over and above, it is both positive as well as it is a challenge that the post-COVID world, many people, they say it is not going to be normal. It's going to be new normal. So this is again another, perspective about the world. So therefore, how it is going to be an opportunity, the world is going to be different, new, which means that you are all everyone in the starting block, which means whether you are an experienced company, whether you are new, whether you are thinking of starting new, everyone, the line is drawn. If we assume that the world is going to be new. So therefore, there is no advantage. There is no competitive advantage. So therefore, from that perspective, it is going to be a big opportunity. At the same time, it is going to be a big challenge. How? Understanding this new world. It's not going to be certainly easy because all these factors will apply, the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Therefore, understanding the world is going to be a big challenge. So the winner is going to be who is going to get a clear picture, who is going to get the insight, who is going to get a more clarity. So the race is towards understanding the world. So that is why we suggest the framework for tackling VUCA. You need to have another VUCA, which is vision, creating a new world, understanding the world, making sense of the chaos. You need to have clarity, and you need to be agile. The speed is the name of the game. So putting all these together, if you have vision, if you have understanding of the world, if you have clarity about the world, and if you are agile, this is going to help you in the post-COVID world, right? So with that, so who is a startup? So let's try to, and actually when I started preparing for this session, my core, I've decided my core target group is going to be the startups. Of course, this is being organized by CIIC. Therefore, I take their startups as the target segment, those who are incubated by CIIC as well as people similar to them. So I'm trying to address them. I know, I'm fully aware that there are people here in this forum with a lot of experience in different fields, maybe investors, maybe experts, maybe academics, maybe researchers. So my target group, I'm going to address these 34 startups, right? So therefore, so I'm just, let's keep that in mind. So who is a startup? According to Peter Thiel, one of the great founders of, he's of PayPal. Now he has come out with a simple way of understanding startup in his work 0 to 1. He says, a small groups of people bound together by a sense of mission to change this world for better. So what do you mean by change this world for better? To make the world more prosperous and peaceful. And the startups are in the business of doing new things. not doing the same thing better and more. They are in the business of doing new things. So the key aspect of startup is innovation. When you want to do new things, you need to innovate. And to innovate, the most important strength you should be having is new thinking. Therefore, I make a call to all startup founders. You need to put a lot of importance to develop your thinking skills. Thinking is normal, but innovative thinking is not. Strategic thinking is not. Is there any magical formula to think innovatively and creatively? To think strategically? No. So what else we need to do? Thinking, we mean thinking about the business from the first principles. Go back to the roots. Understand the first principles of business. Develop your thinking skills, be it innovative thinking skills or strategic thinking skills, and that is going to help you. So therefore, as startup founders, you need to give more importance for thinking. Of course, execution is more important, but to start with, thinking is very important from creating new things point of view, perspective. So recently I had opportunity to listen to and discuss with our Mr. Suresh Sambandam, the poster entrepreneur or poster startup entrepreneur from Chennai. His Kissflow is along with Sridhar Vembu's Zoho and Girish Mathrubootham's Fresh Desk are making us proud. Chennai as the India's SaaS capital, software as a service capital. And my dear friend, Mr. Ganesh Radhakrishnan of Wharfedale Technologies, is a serial entrepreneur from US. So they gave very interesting insight about entrepreneurs and startups. Suresh was saying that many startup founders approach him for investments because he's also an angel investor. So he says they come with good value proposition, but they lack business sense. And when I was speaking to my good friend, Mr. Ganesh Radhakrishnan from US, he was telling that in startup journey, the most important thing about the startup journey is timing. It is not just your solution. It is at what time you pitch your solution. That's very important. Of course, we are going to see a few examples. Just to quote an example, Webvan was an internet startup way back 20 years ago as e-retailer, which failed because then the time was not ripe. So timing is very important. And second very important thing Ganesh was suggesting is many entrepreneurs, particularly Indian entrepreneurs, startup founders are good in providing solution, but they need to develop skills in finding a bigger problem. So he was just comparing problem solving and problem identification. So he said, we need to develop skills in identifying problems. So this made me think how to help the startup founders, how to help the startup entrepreneurs with this kind of business thinking, with this kind of innovative thinking. So that is what my presentation is going to be all about. So first, few first principles in business. Of course, we all know, understanding the customer, understanding the broader context, understanding the market from the timing perspective, understanding value from the solution perspective, creating unique things from the innovation perspective, to do more with less, frugal perspective, team perspective, funding perspective, strategic commitments we make in moving forward will limit the ability to pivot from agility and adaptability perspective. So if your strategy is not right, if you start moving in a particular direction, you lose the opportunity to pivot because of your strategic commitment. So therefore, you need to handle strategy with more care. So these are some of the points which I'm going to discuss with you. As introduced, I work in the space of strategy, innovation, and digital. So I see this as a golden triangle. And particularly in today's context, all these three gains more importance. So I make a call to all my fellow founders of startups and entrepreneurs. Please treat strategy and innovation as science. We take strategy and innovation for granted generally. I'm just making a general. These are all based on my observation and my discussion with many of the people who are involved in the startup ecosystem. As Suresh rightly said, people come with value proposition. For example, he was just telling that people who with software background, they come out with a wonderful software. They know how to write code. But will they be able to make a business out of it? That's the question. So here comes the strategy and innovation. So please invest time, effort, and resource on strengthening your strategy and innovation capabilities. So strategy and innovation, treat it as a science. It is not magical formula. It's not a magical pill. It's pure science. So you invest a lot on technology. You invest a lot on other things. Please invest in these soft technologies like strategy and innovation. As startup founders, I always suggest, as Simon Sinek always says, start with why. Simon Sinek says many organizations know what they do and how they do because it is visible, but very few know why they do. That's very important. You need to start with that question. Why am I an entrepreneur? Why I want to become a startup founder? That's the key question you need to ask and make it clarified to your team. That's very important. Just I want to introduce one of the successful startup entrepreneur, recently exited from her startup, Ms. Hemalata Annamalai. She is the founder of Ampere Vehicles. Some of you may know it's from Coimbatore. I've chosen a very native entrepreneur because we can connect with her experience. She's from Coimbatore. She started Ampere Vehicles, which makes electric two-wheelers and three-wheelers. So she put her venture into a very simple, crisp, 4-line vision. She says, my dream is to build the next Tesla Motors of India. I want to leave behind legacy and I am going to do it through Ampere. Look at this, how crisp, the clarity in thinking. She says, my dream is to build next Tesla Motors, which means she's telling what she's going to do. I want to leave behind a legacy, which means she's telling why she wants to do. And I'm going to do it through Ampere, which means she's very clear about how she is going to do. So this clarity is expected with every startup founder and the founding team. So every entrepreneur wants to change the world. Today we are talking about sustainable development. Sustainable development is all about people, planet, and profit. Of course, very generic understanding of an entrepreneur is entrepreneurial journey is to make money. Yes, true. There's no doubt about it. But number one, is it enough? Is it going to help us sustain our business? Sustain from the economic perspective as well as sustain from the global perspective. Today, it's very loud and clear that every business needs to focus on all the three: people, planet, and profit. Of course, profit is important, but without the social and environmental impact, the sustainability of your venture is a big question mark. Therefore, even though you focus on one, but you need to balance the other. For example, here I'm presenting to you 3 different cases. Ms. Hemalata Annamalai, an environmental entrepreneur. She took clean tech as her space. Even though she's focusing on environmental positioning as an environmental entrepreneur, she's also balancing the economic and social. On the right, we have Baiju, economic. On the left, we have Padman. There is a big movie made out of our friend. So he is a social entrepreneur. Baiju is an economic entrepreneur. Muruganandam, his name. social entrepreneur. So even though they are all positioning themselves as economic, environment, and social entrepreneurs, of course, they need to be, when they need to sustain, they need to bring all these three aspects together. Maybe the degree may vary. So this is the first lesson in entrepreneurship today for startup founders. When you position your enterprise, you need to be clear, and also you need to balance. Look at, again, the case of Ms. Hemlata Annamalai, when she was, even though she's positioning herself as an environmental entrepreneur, clean tech enterprise, but still it was profitable economically. It was socially relevant enterprise. So this is what very important message every entrepreneur need to understand. Before I move further, I'm taking this as my mission, because being an academic, I feel this is my duty to make the people understand the power of theory. Because whenever I say the word theory, particularly the practitioners, they have a shock. They always say, they argue even, in many cases, they say, sir, theories are made in air-conditioned rooms. Practices are happening in the field. There is always a gap between theory and practice. My friends, I want you to understand one thing. How the theories are made. Once you start appreciating this, this is going to guide, because throughout my presentation, I'm going to tell you how these theories have guided many organizations and how they profited out of it. So what is theory? For example, we always value experience. Yes. For example, as a startup founder, you go to Mr. Suresh Sambandam. Mr. Suresh, if I do X, will Y happen? Suresh will say, yes, I did X. I tried to do something X. It resulted in Y. That is his experience, personal experience. But he'll also caution you, it worked for me. I'm not sure whether it will work for you. You might have seen this in many, many cases. So what is theory? Theory is experiences of many people, synthesized. For example, when I introduced Simon Sinek's Golden Circle, start with why, it is the synthesis of many, many people's experience. Look at this. He says how great leaders inspire everyone to take action, which means he studied great leaders and he came out with this theory. So therefore, start appreciate theories. Theories are synthesis of many people's experience. So what are theories? They are frameworks, models, concepts, and philosophies, which are synthesis of many successful or even failed people's experiences from which we learn. Otherwise, we have to resort to, let me do it by trial and error. If I'm successful, I will continue. If fail, I will do it again. This is reinventing the wheel. Okay, I go to a mentor. I learn from them. Yes, even when you go and ask your mentor, they will also read all these experiences, synthesize and give it to you. So therefore, start appreciating theories. Those are the soft technologies which can help you guide your journey towards success. Look at these theories. I'm presenting it to you. Theories are like lenses. We use different lenses to get clarity. We use different gadgets. For example, we have our microscope. We have our telescope. For different purposes, we use different tools. So theories are like these tools. If you want to have a clarity about what's happening around you, because we started with saying that who is going to understand what's happening around you early is going to gain advantage. So these tools will help you to see what's happening around you in the marketplace, in the environment, so that you get more clarity, so that you can form your vision, so that you can understand and act. So theories inspire. I'll give you a few quick examples. I start with one of the greatest theories, our own C.K. Prahalad. He is C.K. Prahalad, Coimbatore Krishna Prahalad, our own person. He's a great strategy professor, academic researcher, and theorist who came out with a number of theories. But I'm here, I'm presenting to you one of his very powerful theories, the fortune at the bottom of the pyramid. He's the one who made the world to look into the bottom of the pyramid. Because he observed one thing very interestingly. He saw a pattern of all organizations, which includes the startups and entrepreneurs, entrepreneurial ventures. Everyone is focusing at the upper class of any society or middle class of any society, because they feel that they are the people who can afford my products and services. And very interestingly, 60% of any society in general, which is also applicable to the world, is at the bottom of the pyramid, which means their spending capability is very less. Their purchasing power is less. For example, less than $1,500 in the international standards. So most of the organizations, they were ignoring that market. Does it mean that they don't have needs? They don't have wants? No, but they simply ignore because of the fact that they believe that they don't have the capacity to buy. But he did a research and he came out with this book, Fortune at the Bottom of the Pyramid. He proved very clearly that they can afford. It's not the problem of them, it is a problem of the organizations. You don't know how to give it to them. A classic example is sachet shampoo. The same shampoo, no product innovation, nothing, only a simple innovation in packaging helped reach out to the poorest of the poor. So here it is not a great innovation. It is not a great product innovation. Here, an innovation in packaging, which helped to reach out to the bottom of the pyramid. So that is what he was keep on telling. It is a problem of the organizations. It is a problem of the startups. It's a problem of the entrepreneurs. Their perspectives. That is what I'm just suggesting. You have to have different perspective towards the market. Thinking is the key. How you look at the market, how you look at the world, that matters. Believe me, my friends, the next 50 to 100 years belongs to India. A lot of the thinking which is going to come out of India is going to develop new theories for the world. Because all along, when you look at all these management theories, it all comes from the Americas and Europes because of the fact that the economic development, economic action was happening in that place. Now it is shifting to India and Asia. Therefore, the new theory should evolve. So here I'm making an appeal to all my fellow academics and researchers. This high time to observe things happening and then capture this as frameworks, models, and concepts which can guide our future generations. Look at this, Blue Ocean Strategy. That is going to be, I'm going to spend a little more time on Blue Ocean Strategy today. Blue Ocean Strategy, which came out as a single paper in 1995, it has become a big system, strategy system in 2005 when the book was released. It changed many, many companies. It changed the perspective of the world. One company, if you want to give me an example, it is Samsung. The connection being Chan Kim, Professor Chan Kim of INSEAD Business School is from Korea. Samsung is from Korea. That's the connection. So he started experimenting with his ideas in Korea, in Samsung company. He was an advisor, and many of his ideas from Blue Ocean Strategy helped Samsung to achieve what it is today. So these frameworks, so of course, I'm going to discuss this in detail. The core of thinking is value innovation and looking for uncontested market space. So these ideas, how when others are competing and how you can move out of the competition and move into blue ocean. So that is what this theory is all about. To my surprise, because I'm promoting this for many years, whenever I talk to a group of entrepreneurs and particularly startup founders, very few heard of this and very few use this. Okay, today my core presentation is on strategy for startups. If you have the right strategy, you can be the next unicorn. I hope you all appreciate what is a unicorn in startup startup world, unicorn is a $1 billion company. So you can be the next unicorn if you have your strategy right. So how to make it right? Is it a magic pill? No, it is purely science. Please be cautious. It is not simple. It is complex, which means you need to invest your time, effort, and resources to master it. I suggest this as a soft technology. You're investing in a lot of hard technologies. So I advise you to invest in this soft technology, which is strategy and innovation. Let's quickly look at what is strategy. So this is where you are here as a startup. You want to reach a position here, which is your aspiration. First, you need to be very clear about your aspiration. Where do you want to reach? You need to be very clear. Lesson number 1 in strategy. Then you need to understand the forces which can help you to reach there and which will stop you from reaching there. Simple. So there are 2 forces acting. Some forces which helps you, which are supporting forces, which stops you, which are opposing forces. So you need to understand these forces, and then you have to make your journey, design your journey. Is it going to be a straight line? No, it is going to be like this. It is going to be exactly like this. It's not going to be a straight line journey. So why like this? You need to understand this framework by Henry Mintzberg. Very interesting, very important, powerful framework on strategy. He says every entrepreneur starts with an intended strategy. As the world changes, for example, pre-COVID, you might have thought of many things. It's a classic example. Come 2019 December, the world has changed. Nobody on this earth had never ever thought that the whole world will be in lockdown, literally. Which means all our intended strategy are going to be in big question. So this high time to evaluate your intended strategy and drop some of the strategies and start making some new actions, which we call it as emergent strategy, that is going to take to the place where you want to reach. Because all these things which you have designed before is not going to be useful. It's the first lesson in strategy. Please remember, strategy is not a straight line. It's going to be a messy thing. Because why it is messy? Because of this. Whatever you decide today may not be relevant tomorrow. So this is the first lesson, a framework which should guide your actions. So how to understand the supporting forces and opposing forces? You need to understand what is strategy first. A strategy is a unique system of value creating decisions and actions that will take you to the aspired position. So the key things are, you need to create a value creating system that should be unique. Here comes innovation, which consists of decisions and actions that will take you to aspired position. So many of the startup founders and entrepreneurs, they focus on actions, which are individual actions. I do marketing, I do product development, I do supply chain management. But if it is not cohesively, coherently built as a system, it is not going to deliver result. So strategy is not just a heap of actions. It's not just heap of decisions. It's set of decisions and actions which comes as a unique system. So that is the key thing about strategy. So how to develop that? Of course, that's $1 billion question. It's really a $1 billion question. That's why I said, if you know how to develop that, you are going to be the next unicorn. So let's start the journey how to do that. First thing, you need to have a clear understanding about 3 things: your foresight, your insight, and cross-sight. Your foresight is about the future evolution of your industry. You have to make sense. You may tell me, you are saying you make sense. Yes, we are ready, but how to? That is what you need to develop your thinking frameworks. You need to have your guiding frameworks. You need to look into the future. Those who are going to have more clarity about the future are going to be the winners. Insight, what do you have inside? your unique assets and capabilities of your team, of your individuals. And then how you are going to combine these two to create value. That is what understanding the world is all about. So first thing is having an understanding about how your industry is going to evolve, how the world is going to evolve. Second, what you are going to have. And then finally, how you are going to combine these two to create value. So to understand this, you need to have a complete. So here the question is, we want to create value. We want to create value for whom? That's a big question. So to all our stakeholders. So when you are strategizing, you need to keep all the stakeholders in mind. And then you need to have an understanding of the industry competition. You need to have an understanding of the external environment. Now I'm going to present to you a few frameworks which can help you think, with which you can get more clarity. For example, the first one is 5 approaches to strategy. Because many entrepreneurs approach strategy in a very straightforward, simple way, which we call it as classical strategy. This will work only when you are in a very, what do you call, a very standard environment without much surprises, a very stable environment. So according to this research, this suggests that there are 5 different types of environments based on your ability to predict the environment, based on do you have the power to shape the industry, and based on your resource constraints. So based on which there are 5 possible scenarios. So this theory suggests you that for all these 5 different scenarios, you need to have 5 different approaches. For some, when you are in this environment, you have to be fast. When you are in this environment, you have to be first. When you are in this environment, you need to be renewal environment, you have to be adaptive. So I suggest this to entrepreneurs. So first you need to understand the environment and find out whether it is predictable, can you shape the industry, and how about your resources. Then we have Porter's generic strategies. Basically, every entrepreneur or every business across the world focuses on 2 important things. One is, am I going to differentiate my product based on the price or cost, or differentiation? When I say differentiation, I'm not worried about price, I'm worried about the features. So based on this, there are 4 possible, depending upon the business, a market you are looking at, whether you're looking at the broad market or a narrow market. So you need to answer this question. Are you going to focus on cost? Are you going to focus on differentiation? Are you going to focus on broad market? Are you going to focus on narrow market? So these questions will make things more clear so that you can design your actions and you can take decisions which can create value for the stakeholders. That's very important. And here I present another very interesting framework, which is an entrepreneurial strategy compass, which is based on, are you ready to collaborate or you want to compete? The first question. Are you going to, what is your attitude towards your innovation? Are you going to keep your innovation open, or when you're going to keep your innovation closed? Are you going to work on intellectual property? Are you going to work on the value chain? So these are some of the questions you need to ask to decide your journey. And let me quickly give you some examples. For example, Rent the Runway. This was a startup which directly head-on competed with the fashion industry, because you all know the fashion labels, they were trying to sell the clothes. Here, Rent the Runway is a company which was started by a startup founder. It said that you need not buy expensive fashion clothes, you can rent it. So it is taking the competition head on. It is moving the competition from buying to renting. Here, look at this OpenTable. Some of us, we know OpenTable is a startup which was facilitating customers to book restaurant tables, as well as facilitating the restaurants with softwares to run their restaurants. So they are creating a platform. This is another strategy. And here, Dolby, look at Dolby. They have a lot of IPs in terms of audio systems, and they collaborate with top companies to provide their IPs as a part of the system. And here, look at Peapod. Peapod, just to give you a perspective, Peapod and Webvan started at the same time, where Peapod was supporting all the existing grocery stores. So it was just a part of the value chain. So it took products from the grocery stores and delivered it to the customer. So it was surviving for the last 20 years, whereas Webvan closed its shop because Webvan was trying to disrupt. It was a wrong timing. Of course, today it would have been a big success, but when it was started 20 years ago, that is what I appreciate Mr. Ganesh Radhakrishnan saying, that entrepreneurs need to be very careful about the timing of entry, whether the environment is ripe. Again, of course, already I discussed this. So blue ocean strategy, then open innovation. Look at that. This is another very interesting thought. Because generally entrepreneurs and startup founders and any businesses, they always think where from the idea comes from within. Our people has to generate idea. But here is a research work which identified there are many organizations, they not only look ideas from inside, but also they look ideas from outside, which completely changed. Just to put you in perspective, P&G, A.G. Lafley, the former chairman and CEO of P&G, is a great promoter of this idea in his company P&G, where he says connect and develop. That's their strategy. What do you mean by that? You all know P&G makes hundreds of products. They need a lot of investment on R&D. So he said, of course we also invest, but also why can't we tap into the external ideas? That one simple perspective changed P&G's bottom line. Change the P&G's outlook. So this is what we mean by concepts and frameworks, how it can guide your thinking. Please, I want to highlight again one more thing. We need to develop our thinking by taking help from such perspectives. Because these theories and models and frameworks gives you a new way of thinking. Look at this. How A.G. Lafley got insight from the idea of open innovation, and he implemented that in his organization. Rest is history. Reverse innovation. There's another very interesting theory. Of course, we should be proud that he is also from India, a world-class expert on innovation and strategy, Professor Vijay Govindarajan. He came out with an idea, synthesizing different people's ideas, and came out with an idea called reverse innovation. Just to present this case, look at this. GE. General Electrical is one of the world's largest medical equipment manufacturers. They have an ECG machine, more sophisticated. So when they came to India, under the advice of Professor Vijay Govindarajan, they came out with an affordable ECG, which can run in Indian conditions, without electricity, with battery, with simple technologies, which is 1/10 of the cost. So the point here is, here's a great opportunity for startup founders. You need to understand this. If you're able to come out with an idea for reverse innovation, you can also get funding from these top corporations like GE. For example, if you're able to do something which the major business corporations are doing across the world for Indian conditions, like for example, these ventilators. So what is the biggest point for these large corporations is, that is what he says, create far from here, win everywhere. What does it mean? The learnings of this, making this so affordable, is going to help this machine to reduce their cost. I think I'm making my point. Again, when you try to innovate in terms of developing a system which is at 1/10 of the cost for this market, the learnings here can be translated to this market, which we call it as a developed market, to reduce the cost of this machine. Maybe let's say it is $10,000, this is $1,000, just an example. So from learnings, we can make this at a much, much reduced cost. It's a great learning for big corporations. Please remember, my friends, as startup founders and entrepreneurs, you have a very great advantage, because large corporations cannot do such experiments always. So therefore, you startup founders, you try to identify such big problems and try to solve it, so you can get even funding from support from large corporates like GEs. So frugal innovation, there is another perspective which is promoted by, again, our own man, Navi Raju. He's our own Pondicherry man. So he came out with a concept called frugal innovation, which is captured in this book, Frugal Innovation, How to Do More with Less. Let's look at some cases. He observed like this Chotu-Cool, which is a locally made refrigerator for local purpose. Even without electricity, this can operate. And this is a great innovation in terms of revenue, in terms of payment, in terms of pricing. This is about Selco, solar electricity company. And this is about, this is a recent case, COVID-19, how China is using telemedicine to combat COVID-19 with the existing technologies. So here, this is another classic case of frugal innovation where, look at India. India spent close to $80 million, but whereas the same mission to Mars, NASA spent close to $700 million, almost 1/10 of the cost. If I remember right, this is the time at which our Prime Minister made a call, Startup India, Stand Up India, and Make in India program. Because we have proved to the world that India is capable of producing, with its great engineering and scientific talent, producing such great products at 1/10 of the cost. This is another case where, look at this. This is an incubator. In the West, they have developed this incubator at the price of $20,000, where in India, an entrepreneur developed this at $200. Look at that. 1/100th of the price, which saved 300,000 babies. All these things happening in India. So one of our greatest strengths, I would say, is our human resource, technically trained human resource. I make a call to entrepreneurs and startup founders, put them into use, give them great challenges, give them great problems. They are capable of solving it creatively, innovatively, frugally. So this already we discussed this. So what is frugal innovation? How to keep the value up and resources down, which is almost same as blue ocean. I'm going to share with you quickly the blue ocean principles. So there are principles which can be adopted. So I'm leaving it to you. So let me quickly spend some more time on blue ocean strategy. So what is blue ocean? Blue ocean is moving away from competition, because in every market there will be always competition. So as startup founders and entrepreneurs, you need to look for new markets, creating new markets. That is where the real challenge is. That is where the real entrepreneurship is. That is where the real startup initiative is. So don't try to beat competition, try to avoid competition, make competition irrelevant. So I'll quickly give some examples. So the fundamental principles of blue ocean is how to reduce cost and increase value. That is what frugal innovation also suggests. But very interesting thing about blue ocean is it gives you a set of tools which can help you to do this. Of course, it's very easy to say reduce cost and increase value. But the next question is how? So you can do this using many tools like eliminate, reduce, raise, and create. So look at this. For example, this is a very interesting case, recent case, which is captured in Blue Ocean Shift, how Citizen M, which is a hotel, chain of hotel, created its Blue Ocean, created new market space in hotel industry. So what they did is, this is a very interesting tool. This is called value curve and strategy canvas. So what you need to do is, you need to put all the offerings here, and you're going to put the level of offering from low to high. So each offering, price, doorman, room size, location, speed, media, everything, you are going to mark what are the existing hotels, luxury hotels are doing, at what level. For example, price is very high, doorman service is relatively high, room size is big, prime location, check-in speed is low, and media experience is low. So this company has changed the value curve, which means they have moved out of competition. If you are in competition, you also look same. But here they have completely innovated or reinvented a new value curve by increasing something and decreasing something. That is what we say: eliminate, raise, reduce, and create. For example, here look at this. Price they have reduced. Doorman service they have reduced. Room size they have reduced, by which they can reduce and eliminate. They can keep the cost low, and they have increased the check-in speed. They have increased the media experience, by which they have increased the value. So both happening at the same time, decreasing the cost, increasing the value. So this is what Blue Ocean is all about. And one more very important principle of Blue Ocean is, don't just look at the existing customer base. Look for new unexplored market. I'll give you some examples later. Yeah, look at this case in point. For example, look at this 4 cases quickly. Arvind Eye Hospital. We know in India, there are, not only in India, in many of the developing countries, there are many people with eye problem. They don't have access to good eye health care because it is very expensive, not affordable. So Arvind created a system through which they made it affordable. It's a great case in point of value innovation. Look at this. Gillette, again, a global product. Look at that, how they explored a new market. So here, they were not competing with the existing hospitals. They created a new market for which the access was not there. So they expanded the market. Look at Gillette. Gillette was, for many years, they thought that their products were only for men. So they ignored, they were not, they were not exploring the other, market, unexplored market. Suddenly they found that women is a great market for their products. Grameen Bank. We all know Grameen Bank is a world-class, social innovation where they created a bank for the poor, thanks to Professor Muhammad Yunus of Bangladesh. So he said when poor were not given access to the existing traditional banking, right? So he created a bank and created a new market. So this is what value innovation is. This is what Blue Ocean strategy is. Not just competing with the existing market, creating new markets, expanding the existing market. Look at Apollo. All along, hospitals were looking at their services as it is for people who have health problems. Suddenly somebody thought, why not hospitals for healthy people? So it created an entirely new market. So hospitals for people who are unwell and hospitals are people who are healthy. So they expanded the market. So they created Well Woman Clinic kind of services, which expanded their market. So therefore, there is always a scope in every industry to expand the market. That is where you have to put your thinking caps on. You have to exercise your thinking. You have to invest in strategy and innovation tools, techniques, models, which can help you to think creatively and innovatively. So there is a host of frameworks which are available. So this is your existing customer in any industry. Whenever you want to enter into an industry, you start with the existing customer, right? So look at the other non-customers. According to Blue Ocean strategy, these are non-customers. Particularly, this is unexplored. For example, how Gillette looked at tier 3, which are completely unexplored, and created new market. This is what we say is Blue Ocean. So Blue Ocean is not competing and sharing the existing market. Blue Ocean is about creating new markets, expanding the market base, expanding the customer base. That is the thinking. So we give you quick 5 steps how to make a Blue Ocean shift. So very importantly, you have to have the right team. What do you mean by the right team? The team which has that innovation perspective. And you need to be very clear about where are you now. You need to have a very clear understanding. You need to imagine where you could be. And you have to find out how. This is the $1 million question. How? Here is where you have to systematically reconstruct market boundaries and develop alternative blue ocean opportunities, where tools like this will help you. Strategy canvas, ERRC grid, looking at non-customers, looking at 6 stages of buyer experience cycle. Look at the buyer experience cycle. I want to be different, right? I want to create a new market. I want to create a new value proposition. So look at the buyer experience cycle, from purchase to delivery to use to supplements to maintenance to disposal. So ask question in every space. For example, here, what are the different utility levers? Customer productivity, simplicity, convenience, risk, fun and image, environmental friendliness. So you can play with all these squares. You can reconfigure your value. That's the right word. Reconfigure your value using this framework. So there are enough spaces and opportunities. So there are 6 paths framework, which is suggested by Blue Ocean. Don't look at only your industry. Look at across alternative industries. For example, when Southwest Airlines started their airline, they did not look at their own industry airline. They looked at how people are commuting trains and by trains and buses, how they can, how they can reach out to them. So look at alternative industries. Look across strategic groups. Redefine the buyer groups. So these are some of the tools using which you can create new blue oceans. And this is a tool to check whether you have really founded any blue ocean, whether it has buyer utility, whether it has got price, the right price, whether the cost, whether the adoption is there. So if the answer is yes, yes, yes for all, then you have ended up a commercially viable blue ocean idea. So using all these tools and frameworks, you are going to develop guiding principles for your strategy. Don't jump into strategy straight away. First, develop guiding principles. Like ask this question: what is the environment in which do I have to be fast? Do I have to be first? Do I have to be viable? Do I have to be an orchestrator? Do I have to be big? Which market I'm going to target? I'm going to target the top or middle or the bottom. How I'm going to position my product? I'm going to position based on the cost, based on differentiation, based on value innovation. How I'm going to innovate? Am I going to use open innovation principles? Am I going to use closed innovation principles? Am I going to use frugal innovation principles? Am I going to think reverse innovation as a principle to guide my innovation initiatives? So you need to ask many questions to have a very clear understanding of what you are going to do. That is what I call it as guiding principles. So once your guiding principles are on, then you are going to start developing your actions and you are going to take decisions. That is what the real strategy is. Now the big question is where to innovate. You can innovate in anything and everything. You can innovate in any of all the 9 boxes. Again, I'm using one more framework, business model canvas, which you are all familiar, which is captured in Business Model Generation by Osterwelder. So there are 9 parts to business model canvas. All of us are familiar. So you can innovate in everything. Just to give you an example, look at this, how recently some of the companies which make shirts is innovating by coming out with the mouth mask. Same design, mouth masks. So again, inspired by such photographs. Look at this. This is one of the greatest innovations from CK Family, Kevin Care, and other groups. You know, Velvet International. Actually, years back, they innovated. Their father, Chinni Krishnan, innovated the sachet. It created a big revolution. It's not a product innovation. It's packaging innovation. So you can even innovate in package. You can even innovate in getting resources. Look at our Mafoy Pandiyarajan, Honorable Minister. When he started Mafoy, he was, years back, he was using crowdfunding. Those days it was real innovation. Now everyone talks about crowdfunding. That is what? You have to be first. You have to think creatively and innovatively. Look at this. I really I appreciate this. Mr. Sridhar Vembu of Zoho, he found that one of the key resources for his company, which is a software development company, is the human resource. So he just thought differently in developing these resources. Instead of going and acquiring resources from the market, which is very expensive, he created his own university. He is recruiting children who is coming out of school and giving them the right tools and techniques and skills and knowledge to build softwares and applications. And rest is history. Today, he's, very interestingly, this is a reverse innovation. You know what he's doing now? Last year, he has announced that he's going to translate this idea to US to create more, human resource in US to develop software for US. So this is a clear case of reverse innovation. He experimented something. Actually, Zoho University was experimented in Tenkasi, southernmost part of Tamil Nadu. And then now it is exported to Americas. So such innovative thinking can give you competitive advantage. Here my good friend, Mr. Prabhakar Murugaya, he's also a software entrepreneur in US, TechFetch, his company. He recently shared with me a very interesting thing happening across the world in terms of pricing, revenue. He says, the future customers are not going to pay for your product, they're going to pay for the outcome. A simple example is, people are not going to buy Xerox machines, photocopier machines, they are going to pay for every print. That's it. So you have to keep this in mind when you're developing your revenue model. This is again a very recent happening in February 2020, this happened. Huangxi Media is a large media company from China. Because of lockdown, theaters were closed. You know what they did? They went to ByteDance. We all know this company which owns the TikTok. So now Chinese people are watching movies because they have a lot of time now. TikTok is for people who are really busy. Now people are enjoying a lot of time. So Huangxi Media used TikTok as a platform to exhibit their films and entertainment. Look at this. Innovation in channels. Key partners. Again, our Hemlata Annamalai, she said she roped in Ratan Tata. Even though the investment was very small, but it brought a lot of advantage for her venture. So how to innovate? This is again a $1 million question. Of course, you need to invest in a lot of tools and techniques. Let me suggest something: design thinking, competitive thinking, systems thinking, innovative thinking, frugal and value innovation. These are the thinking where you need to invest a lot of time, money, and resources so that you have better thinking approaches, which all helps you in understanding customer, understanding market, understanding broader context, create unique things to do more with less. Also, I'm suggesting you this model, Innovators DNA model, which is suggesting you to practice 5 important skills: questioning skills, observing skills, networking skills, experimenting skills, and associational thinking skills, which will help you to identify business ideas, innovative business ideas. So by keeping all these frameworks, by keeping all these models, tools with you, you'll be able to design a $1 billion strategy. Please remember, my friends, we are all like business doctors. Just to put you in perspective, if you are a surgeon, you need to have an entire range of tool sets, right? You may have a lot of ideas. To execute that, you need tools. Same thing here. You want to put a robust strategy, you need a lot of these thinking tools. So you need to focus on this. Just a quick thought on, I'll take 5 more minutes to wrap up about digital. Everyone, we are talking about digital. True. I look at digital not as a technology, but as strategy. I'll tell you why. Because digital, these are the technologies we talk about, but I always say it is not the technologies which is going to create value, but how creatively and innovatively you deploy these technologies. I repeat, it is not the technologies which is going to create value. It is how creatively and innovatively you deploy technologies. For example, robots are there for many years, but how creatively somebody deployed robo as a nursing assistant to support COVID situation. That is what innovation is all about. So therefore, it is not just technology, it is how you deploy technology, which means you need to again think of strategy and innovation. So why we are talking about digital? There are many things happening around recently, not 2 days ago, a few days ago, Facebook and Jio joined and launched a big, a program of helping small and medium enterprises digitally, of course, subject to the approval of the government. So this is one important thing happening. And then this is which shook the world. November 11, 2019, you all know Alibaba clocked a sale of $38 billion in one day by deploying all these technologies, which was humanly impossible. $38 billion is GDP of many countries. So they achieved in one single day. So when you try to decode their DNA, we found that these are the technologies they deployed. Of course, we all know that China is ahead in many of these digital technologies. You know what they say? We don't have any baggage to carry, so we use all these new technologies to improve our business processes. So we need to take a point from then, and then we also need to, of course, we are already in far ahead in digital technologies. So as entrepreneurs and startup founders, I make a call. Whenever you are designing your strategy, whenever you are designing your processes, keep these technologies in mind, how this is going to add value. Let us not deploy technology for the sake of technology, but let's try to figure out whether these technologies can create more value. Certainly, yes, there are a lot of cases. So therefore, please look into this. So I'll just quickly go through what is this digital transformation is all about. So all digital transformation, there are 3 stages. One is digitalization, and digital transformation. The first step when you want to go for digital transformation is digitize. What do you mean by this? Datafication. Try to capture all possible data from all possible touch points, because data is going to give you the next insight. Data is going to be the new oil. And then you move into the next stage. Once the data is ready, then move into the next stage. We try to digitalize the processes, which means that you try to deploy all possible technologies, which we mentioned, in improving your processes. And then finally, you completely transform your business model. Sometimes it may end up in a completely new business model, which is a real digital transformation. Okay, a final note. He is Professor Nirmalya Kumar. He is Tom Friedman. In a very, it's a relatively old book, World is Flat. He made a mention that Indians don't do innovation. This was his observation. Of course, Professor Nirmalya Kumar of London Business School, he wanted to check this statement, whether it is true. So he went and did a research and he presented. It is available in YouTube. You can go and Google it. Professor Nirmalya Kumar on invisible innovation. What he found is really very interesting and we should be proud of. Many of the world's innovation, the underlying, there is some or other connection to India, because most of the global corporations, they have their R&D in India, which shows that Indians are really capable of developing world-class innovation. It may not be in our name, it may be in these MNC's name, but the underlying talent, underlying capabilities comes from India. This is what I'm making an appeal to Indian entrepreneurs and also the world entrepreneurs. Come and tap into this capabilities, human capabilities, which are capable of having world-class innovation, frugally, value innovation, and try to make this world a better place. So just a quick word about Oman. Since I'm from Oman, I'm speaking to you from Muscat, the capital of Oman. Really, it is our second home. Actually, you know, Oman's startup ecosystem is very robust. A lot of initiatives from government, from private, right? So recently they had Arab startup competition. Even I'm also participating in some of the initiatives, right? In the startup ecosystem. There is the Oman Technology Fund. So I'm again making a call to global entrepreneurs, Indian entrepreneurs and startup founders. If there is any possibility of collaborating with Middle East, particularly Oman, we can help you to do that. if you are able to solve some of the Middle East and particularly Gulf countries and Oman's problems, yeah, there is always a great possibility of collaboration. We can help you in that. Recently, I participated in one of the startup events. So, as a closing note, today the world needs a new breed of business founders, business entrepreneurs who are proficient in technology with core critical thinking, and analytics is needed, as are people who can pull these skills together with the right domain expertise. Now here what I see is you all have good domain expertise. You need to develop the knowledge of business strategy. And you need to develop our critical thinking skills and analytical skills. And finally, technology will underpin the transformation. It is a necessary element, but not the differentiator. That is what I'm highlighting. Digital transformation is not about technology. It is about differentiating, which means it is about strategy. Of course, technology is an enabler, but it cannot do anything on its own unless and until it is deployed creatively and innovatively. So let us all put our hands together to strive towards a $1 trillion economy in Tamil Nadu and 5 trillion economy for India. And just to close, as a closing remark, as an individual and a company, we are collaborating with Manonmaniam Sundarnar University in Tirunelveli to create a startup ecosystem in the southern part of Tamil Nadu. So we are also helping, exploring Gulf markets. You can contact us. Thank you. All the very best. Good luck, entrepreneurs and startup founders across the world.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Akshay.
Yes, sir. We have a few questions which have come.
Yeah,
so participants, please do note that only the questions which are in the Q&A section will be answered, because chat, it's a pretty large number. So we will have to filter from the chat, which is an option which is not available on Zoom. So, sir, do you have the Q&A section visible at the bottom, or would you want me to read the question?
Yeah. I'm seeing. What is generic strategy? Okay, students ask, we want to do something but don't know what to do. How should they go about it? Okay, want to do something. Okay, good. Okay, let me start with this. Student asks, we want to do something but we don't know what to do. How should they go about it? The first thing, as again, I take the help of Mr. Ganesh Radhakrishnan. He has observed that many people are looking for solution but look for great problems. Okay, so my suggestion to student is, whenever, just look for problems around you and try to think how to solve this. The bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity. So the starting point should be observing what's happening. That is why I said they need to develop capabilities, thinking capabilities of how to observe, how to question, how to experiment, how to network. So I suggest them, first thing is, let them go through the Innovators DNA framework. Let them develop their skills in observing, skills in questioning, skills in experimenting, skills in networking, skills in associating, so that you become a natural innovator, right? So everything then becomes an opportunity for you. So this is my suggestion to Dr. Geeta when she asks about students. Sir, why is a business plan important and who should write it? Very good. So I always say that first start with strategy, then you can translate into business plan. Strategy should be developed by the founding team, because strategy is a living document. Strategy is dynamic. It is not just a written piece of paper. You're going to live it. You're going to renew it every day. So therefore, you should breathe it. So you should do it. That is where you can take help from other external sources, but you have to do it on your own. That is my suggestion. Then what is generic strategy? That is what I presented, a framework, generic strategy by Michael Porter, who is a living legend on strategic thinking. He says the generic strategy simply, there are two approaches. One is, am I going to solve the problem keeping cost in mind? Am I going to solve the problem by keeping, not giving more importance to cost, just to give a differentiated an offering? But you also have to keep in mind the value innovation principle. Value innovation says it is not either or choice, you can do both, which means you can increase the value and decrease the cost. So that is my answer. So then you said in the slide which you have shown, Blue Ocean comparing luxury hotels, where do they stand in services provided? Very good. So here I just want to highlight one important thing about Blue Ocean thinking. Blue Ocean thinking is not just cutting cost or removing the thing. No, you have to ask one simple question. You just put all the offerings in terms of, as I've given you the strategy canvas, and ask from each part for your target group, whether the top tier, the middle tier, or the lower tier, the bottom of the pyramid, is every element, how far it adds value. If you feel that it is not adding value, then why are you having? Maybe because my competition is having, then you have to relook into it. Can you reduce it? Can you remove it? So we are not going to, drastically just take away something. No, you're going to ask every bit, right? Whether if it is really adding value, even sometimes you have to give more. Immaterial of the cost. But if it is not going to add value, reduce. For example, in that case, that Citizen M case, what they found is restaurant in a hotel. Normally, when you visit a good hotel, you will find restaurants, What they say is, we are located in a city center. Most of our locations are city centers. There are n number of options for all our guests. So why should we run our own restaurant and put that on top of the cost? Just simply saying we run a 24-hour restaurant and then whatever cost, we are just putting that on the room cost. Why? So they've removed the restaurants. They said, do we have to have a very luxurious lobby? No, it is not going to add any value to the customer. Remove it. At the same time, room size, so big room size. No, let's make it small. But they focused on bed quality, which is very important because people come and stay for a good night's sleep, a comfort. So wherever it adds value, you increase. Wherever it's not going to add value, you reduce. That is how you reduce the cost and increase the value at the same time. Then the next question is, what are the key factors of success of startups? All the thing which I said, when you follow, those are the key factors for success of startups. What will be the key to the young entrepreneurs who are making maiden startups amidst this pandemic? Yes. The key for young entrepreneurs is understanding of the world post-pandemic, post-COVID. That is where you have to invest a lot of time, effort, and resource on sharpening your thinking skills, collecting a lot of tools and frameworks which can help you think. So invest in your soft technologies. Don't be in a hurry. Don't jump into ventures. When I say you and your team, make a complementary team and then identify a big problem. And timing is very important. Please remember the case of Webvan. Webvan was far ahead of its time. When Webvan is launched today, it would have been a big success. But in those days, the technology was very expensive. The infrastructure was not ripe to conduct such complete, a new business model. So they failed. Their cost was very high. The revenue was less. So they closed the shop. But look at Peapod. They took us leaf. What they said is, we are not going to disrupt the existing businesses. We are going to complement the existing businesses. So what they did is, they created a new channel. So these kinds of thinking, you have to keep watching the market very closely. To keep observing the markets very closely, you need to wear these lenses and look at the market with more clarity. If you have more clarity on the market, naturally you would come out with a wonderful value proposition and a business model around it, so nobody can stop you. Okay, please differentiate digitization and digitalization. Thank you very much for asking this question because I'm passionate about this. Digitization is, otherwise I call it as datafication. Whatever you do, can you datafy it? What do you mean by that? For example, your business has got 10 touch points. Your customers are coming and touching you in different points. Can you capture all the data from all the data points and bring it to one place? Today, technologies are available. Cloud services are available. You can do that. Sensor technologies are available. You can do that. So collect as much as data as possible. So what is the power of this data? You can get a lot of insights from the data. I'll give you one example of how a company like Netflix is able to make a bet on making a film which is 100% success based on their data. Okay, so these are some of the things which we need to understand. So datafication is what digitization. Digitalization is looking at each process. For example, I'll give you one example. Recently, I was just I had the opportunity to listen to one of our Tamil entrepreneur who is a very successful entrepreneur in US. One Mr. Mani Subramanian Mani, Shasta Mani, because he runs a company called Shasta. He said he's doing a business of wet dough for dosas and idli material. So he said we have used robos for grinding. So this is a classic case of digitalization. So let's not have because many people understand digitalization as going online. No, not necessary. Digitalization is looking at the process. For example, he's in a process of making dough. So can we use technology, the robotic technology? Another case, the same Shasta Mani was sharing with us that he is importing many materials, particularly the agri produce from India to US. And when he wants to supply to leading retailers, they are asking, can we have a track on, do you have a track on these the food products, the entire journey? Yes, today technology is available. For example, blockchain technology is available to completely map the journey of the food material. So deploying such technologies can give you competitive advantage, can give you value. And when you have deployed these technologies and talk to people like the importers like Mr. Shasta Mani, he'll be very happy to source from you because you have solved this problem. So digitalization is just mapping all your processes. Even for existing business, this is the case. Map all the businesses processes and try to look at each processes, how these technologies can improve value, can create more value. Like as I said, if you are an agri farmer, you want to export, you are deploying new technologies like blockchains to ensure that your food track is your food chain is tracked. So that is what we mean by digitalization. Then I have in the slide you have shown one Blue Ocean comparing luxury hotels. Okay. What are the key factors of success of startups? Already have. Okay. How to move from idea to execution, how to execute. Fantastic. That's a great question. That's a separate topic by itself. So my focus was on generating idea, execution. Of course, I think CAIC has organized a very interesting webinar on project management. If you are asking for execution, I suggest you project management skills are very important for execution. Could you please highlight some other factors for success of startup from Blue Ocean strategy? Of course, all the ideas which I shared from Blue Ocean strategy will be very, very helpful. You have cited an example of Aravind Care as it is tapped an untapped market, but it is 1 minute. Okay, tapped, untapped market, but it is case of ERRC. If so, then how? Okay, untapped. Yeah, very good. So untapped market. What do I mean by untapped market? Look at the world before Aravind, world after Aravind. Before Aravind, world before Aravind, all these people at the bottom of the pyramid, they were not able to have access because it is not affordable. So what they were doing, they assumed that it is fate and they were just keeping quiet. But this man, Professor Dr. V, right? Venkataswamy Naidu, we should be proud of him because it's a world-class case. So he said that, no, I'm going to solve this problem. How? He created a system. You know what? He got inspired by McDonald's. Please, if you have time, you can watch his video in Blue Ocean in the bottom of the pyramid. Fortune at the bottom of the pyramid. a CD where he shares his case. He said, I got inspired from McDonald's. What I did is I have just translated the McDonald's, production system to Arvind's eye surgery system. Rest is history. So he is able to increase the market size. Before, few million people were catered. Now he has increased the market size by making it more affordable. Not only that, he inspired many people, even including Narayana Hridayalaya, Bangalore, was inspired by his work. So he is inspired not only India, but across the world. Then finally, do you want to suggest a book on implementing Blue Ocean Strategy? Yes, when you read Blue Ocean Strategy, there itself, there are a lot of tools and techniques for implementation, because in Blue Ocean Strategy, we strongly believe that formulation and implementation are not two separate things. Implementation can be a part of formulation. So when you read, you will have more insight. I suggest you that. Thank you, sir, for giving this opportunity to learn startup business, agri-based products, how to digital strategy help. That's what I told you, that agri-based businesses can look into things like robotics, things like Internet of Things is a great technology. Then blockchain is a great technology. Business canvas model. Okay. Now the business plans are a little outdated. You need to have a business model canvas. Of course, you can convert that into a business plan if you feel that it is useful. Then finally, sir, what are the important criteria that should be considered while starting the business freshly apart from finance? Please, first, don't worry about finance. Money is available, plenty. What is scarcity is ideas are scarcity. Problems are many, but there are no big ideas to solve those problems. So if you have an innovative, if you have you have identified a great problem, and you have come out with an innovative solution to solve that problem, people are ready to fund. There are enough number of funding avenues. Thank you. Over to Mr. Akshay. I hope I have answered all the questions.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So participants, I'll be launching a poll right now. Please do vote, and the certificates for the program will reach you shortly. Thank you, Dr. Kabali, again. We had a wonderful session. So the poll should appear on your screen. Once you have filled the poll, please, you can leave the session. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Akshay. Thank you. You are a wonderful host. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have hosted you. So I hope all participants have voted. I'm ending the polling now. Thank you so much, participants. Thank you, Dr. Kabali, again for the great session.
Thank you, Akshay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, participants.
The best. Convey my regards and respects to Mr. Parvez. Thank you.
I will surely do so. Thank you so much.
Bye.